The Indian economy is set for explosive growth and could overtake the United States to become the second biggest global economy as soon as 2038. A report by EY claims India's GDP can reach $20.7 trillion by 2030 and potentially $34.2 trillion by 2038 in terms of purchasing power parity. The EY report on India revealed, quote, if beyond 2030, India and the United States maintain average growth rates of 6.5% and 2.1% respectively, during 2028 to 2030, as per IMF forecasts, India may surpass the United States economy in PPP terms by 2038, unquote. Just wow. So Donald Trump's dead economy jibe at India might come back to haunt the White House pretty soon. Is this the reason why the United States is suddenly trying to stall India's economic growth with unfair and even hypocritical tariffs? The stunning August 2025 edition of EY Economy Watch claims under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India is well positioned to outperform other major global economies to become the second largest economy in just 13 years from now. Again, this is in terms of PPP or Purchasing Power Parity and not actual GDP figures. So in terms of Purchasing Power Parity, India already ranks third at $17.4 trillion while the United States is second at $30.3 trillion. China leads the list way higher at $39 trillion, according to figures by the International Monetary Fund. But what are the reasons behind this impressive Indian growth story? Now, this will be possible due to a variety of reasons. Firstly, because of Bharat's median age of 28.8 years, a massive consumer base, one of the largest in the world, high savings and investment rates, and a declining government debt to GDP ratio expected to fall from 81.3% in 2024 to 75.8% by 2030, and that's really impressive. In comparison, the United States has a debt to GDP ratio of 128%. Now, this shows the nation's ability to generate enough income to pay off its debts. With the US at 125% plus, this casts serious doubts over America's ability to regularly meet its targets unless it takes some dramatic actions in global trade. The report adds, the US economy faces challenges from its high government debt to GDP ratio, with a significant portion maturing in the next 2 to 3 years, unquote. Major factors contributing to India climbing the economic ladder in the coming decade will be young population, rising domestic consumption, fiscal discipline, and structural reforms. The report highlighted India's unique advantage of having a dynamic youth, with the average age of people in India in 2025 just 28.8 years. Commenting on India's position, D.K. Srivastav, Chief Policy Advisor, EY India, stated, quote, by building resilience and advancing capabilities in critical technologies, India is well placed to move closer to its Viksit Bharat aspirations by 2047, unquote. With the second highest saving rate among world's largest economies, India will be having more liquidity for infrastructure and business investment in the future. Moreover, the government's borrowing is actually going down now. While other countries are seeing their debt pile up, India's debt to GDP ratio is falling from 81% in 2024 to about 75% or thereabouts by 2030. Now, reforms such as GST, IBC, financial inclusion through UPI, production-linked incentive schemes are all strengthening competitiveness across industries. All this could see India's economy reach 20.7 trillion PPP by 2030 and second largest economy in PPP terms by 2038 with $34.2 trillion GDP. Now, this has been calculated based on projected average growth rates for a period between 2028 and 2030. But remember, earlier this month, US President Donald Trump had called India a dead economy alongside Russia. Now, his statement seems that it could have been used for the US economy instead and not India's economy. When compared with other major economies, China lies on the other end of the spectrum. With headwinds from aging population and rising debt levels, the world's largest economy in PPP terms is projected to reach $42.2 trillion by 2030, with India steadily closing this gap. On the other hand, the Indian economy is the most dynamic in terms of growth, leading the world economy and other major economies in the top 50 by a significant margin. The growth was 2.3 times that of the United States in 2024, with growth projected to be in the range of 3.1 to 3.6 times that of the United States in the years ahead. Japan and Germany, which complete the top 5, both are developed economies, trade-reliant economies, and are constrained by high median ages and heavy dependence on global trade. So will Trump's 50% tariffs have some effect on the growth of Indian economy? With 25% base tariffs higher than other Asian nations, including Vietnam, Indonesia, and even the likes of Pakistan and Bangladesh, the tariffs in the current form are designed to put Indian exporters at a major disadvantage in the US market. So India should only strike a trade deal with the US if tariffs are on par or lower than other Asian countries. According to estimates by EY, only about 0.9% of India's GDP could get impacted by Trump's unilateral unfair tariffs, primarily because India is not a major export-oriented economy, but rather a large domestic consumption economy. Sure, some sectors will see temporary slowdown as new trade alliances take shape. However, the impact on GDP can be contained to 0.1% if India adopts appropriate countermeasures like export diversification, stronger domestic demand, and advancing other trade partnerships. With appropriate countermeasures, India can limit the adverse impact of higher US tariffs on selected Indian imports and about 10 basis points of real GDP growth. In a significant development, government officials revealed on the 28th of August that India is hopeful of still resuming negotiations with the United States on the proposed bilateral trade agreement, or the BTA. The Indian side is also on board for resolving the issue relating to the steep 50% tariff on Indian goods imposed by Washington. Removing these unfair tariffs will be key to striking any deal. Officials told the Indian Express, quote, "We have not finalized new dates because of the overhang of this 50% additional tariff. It was not practical to have official level discussions on the entire BTA because of these high tariffs." The trade talks between India and the United States had actually begun back in March 2025 to come up with a potential bilateral trade agreement. However, while seeking a trade deal with Washington, New Delhi is also actively now searching for alternate trading partners. In an urgent diplomatic push to reduce tariff impact from the United States, India and China are witnessing a reset in their bilateral ties, with Prime Minister Modi's visit to China for the SCO summit. As the two neighbors work on further diffusing tensions which had spiked after the deadly border clashes in 2020 along the line of actual control, or LAC, in Ladakh, Prime Minister Modi will attend the SCO meeting with trade, connectivity, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity all on the agenda. It could also lay the groundwork for a permanent India-China border settlement. Prime Minister Modi is also expected to hold a bilateral meeting with his counterpart, Chinese President Xi Jinping, on the sidelines of the SCO summit. But what do you believe? Can India continue its economic growth story despite the unfair Trump tariffs? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button, and subscribe to Inconnect News.